This is CyberPod EU, the European cybersecurity podcast powered by Sockwise.
I think pentesting is something to
There
work.
is no automatic pentest.
Yeah, okay.
Period. The tester itself is doing the stuff as he or she thinks it's right, but it's very important to get a different opinion. You should not do it simply in-house. You should hire someone from the outside. And if you hire a red teaming assessment, you will see interaction which you had not in mind that could happen.
Hi everyone, and welcome to a new episode of CyberPod EU. Today I am happy to have Ralf Reinhardt as my guest. Ralf is the founder, CEO, and principal consultant of Reinhardt GmbH, and looks back on an exciting history of working in the information technology and service industry. Among others, he is a certified information security manager, certified information systems security professional, and first of all, maybe nowadays a certified incident handler by the EU Council as well. I know that you are also educating people on different universities, which is very interesting. So Ralf is an amazing guest in today's episode, and I want to greet you here. How are you today, Ralf?
Hi, thanks for having me, for the nice invitation. It was a pretty interesting day today. I started very, very early, which is quite unusual since I'm techie to the bone. So no early bird, a late bird. But today was a little bit different. And therefore, I missed your invitation for half an hour. Sorry for that, but better late than never.
At least there was no real security incident. So
it was a kind of a breakfast meeting with the CEOs.
On our side, I mean, so it's just a podcast recording, so you didn't miss anything in this time. So it's not the hardest part of your work. I hope, at least on my end, definitely it's the best part of the day. So it's jumping into the conversation. So you've got pretty many titles. Could you name what is your favorite? So to which of your achievements are you most proud of?
Well, actually, you have to take into consideration that I'm coming from the hacker community. Whenever someone with a hoodie or looking like he could wear a hoodie instead of a suit is meeting some C-level meeting, where will be questions, no doubt. And if you have a discussion here and you tell people how the reality is, if you think we are safe and probably everything is fine. And I remember one conversation where some guy said, "Excuse me, I'm a CISSP." And I said, "Oh, that's nice. I'm as well and know about it." So that makes things a lot easier if you can tell them it's just a certification, but you have to think beyond the certification. Of course, they are necessary. It all started in my first company, which I had a lot of calls with purchase departments of different companies asking, so you would like to look for our golden nuggets and you're asking a huge salary. What are your qualifications? And we said, okay, well, we are pretty good hackers. We know exactly what we do. And the question was, can you prove that? And of course, no one on the purchase department side can guarantee that the person we are buying in really has the skills. So we need some kinds of waivers, some papers. And therefore, those certifications are interesting. And that's the reason why I, let's say, collected them whenever I spoke to someone and said, we would like to have a CISM, we would like to have a CISSP, we would like to have I don't know, name it. And the interesting things we heard, we made a list. And when I said to my fellow colleagues, okay, let's take some money, and every one of us makes one of those nice, shiny certifications. Whenever there is a question of a customer, do you have, we simply can say yes. That's the reason why.
Okay, so you don't care that much about certificates, but your knowledge is important for you. As I know
the
that.
knowledge is important. A certification, of course, is a German term would be Deppenbremse, meaning that you can filter out people who claim that they can do things and at least people who know about it in theory. So certification normally shows the theory and shows the addiction of a person that he or she really would like to dig into that matter and at least poke a little bit on it.
Yeah. Actually, I am very happy that we could convince you to come with us to this episode, because we are going to talk about penetration testing, red teaming, and other offensive testing things. And I found that during my not so long career as yours, that the people have plenty of misunderstandings around these testings. And it's nice that you are also teaching it. So you are the source of the truth in this case. So be very careful what you are saying today.
There is no truth. But anyway, no, that's wrong. There are a lot of truths. But you have to choose your own.
Better. Okay, so turning to penetration testing and actually testing environments for their resilience or protecting capabilities. So what do you think? So I think you also know the history of this. And could you tell in your own words, what do you call a pen test? What do you call a red teaming? And is vulnerability scanning? And how do you differentiate them, if you can have a boundary between these?
As always, the boundaries are, let's say, flexible.
Okay.
So if you ask for the history, the real history of penetration testing means that you would like to penetrate an armor. It's a military test, let's say for tanks. You are shooting at them and they are either broken or they are resilient. It's that easy. That is the beginning of penetration testing. In our terms, in technical penetration testing, a system should be hardened, whatever that system is. It can be the complete company, it can be a technical device, it can be a web application or an API or whatsoever. And if you are pen testing something, you can either take the big, let's say the complete thing into account, the complete organization, and see how far can you come inside of that organization on organizational level. And if you are pen testing one item, you can simply test that one item. In the end, you have to combine everything back again. So pen testing is looking for vulnerabilities and trying to exploit them.
Yeah.
And if you would like to have some separations, what is what and where are the differences, a lot of companies start with vulnerability scanning. So normally a scanner is just looking, let's say in the easiest way, how many IPs do I have, which IPs do I have, and which ports are open on that IP. As you know, there is a set of certain ports which is usually used by some services. You can switch those ports, no problem there. But in the end, you can do a fingerprinting and you see if there is something listening or some reaction on the other side. And in the next level, you can try to exploit that. And so network scanning or system scanning or whatsoever is just looking which IPs, which ports, whatsoever. And if you realize that there are certain, probably software versions which could be exploited, you can try that. And a little bit more sophisticated scanner will try that way. We see, okay, that is a version 4711 of that and that service. There are known vulnerabilities. Let's try those exploits. It's probably not wise to do that in a rough manner on a working and productive environment. Since every exploit every tried exploit can also crash the machine. So there is no guarantee that everything is shining. You simply become, in a silent way, root on the machine. Forget that. So there will be a lot of noise if you're using a scanner. And of course, there will be some systems which simply go belly up for some reasons because we are too old or whatsoever. So you have to be careful with automated stuff. If you're doing it manually, that's what I call a pen test. So you have to make sure that things are safe. So in secureness, you have to operate in a safe way, but you do not damage your company. For instance, you should do a test on a testing environment, if there is any testing environment. And if you have to do it in production, you have to be very careful, of course.
It is exactly what I wanted to ask. That do you call a pen test an automatic? So automatic and pen testing is something to
There is no automatic pen test.
Okay.
Period. So if you can do vulnerability scanning, you can do it in a reconnaissance way, or you can do it in an aggressive way, or if you are really dumb, you can simply hit the Hail Mary button and see what's happening and which hosts will start to burst in flames. I would not recommend that, actually. And the other interesting questions you said, is red teaming. So let's come back to pen testing. You have to define the scope. What are you testing and which way you are testing? Are you careful? Are you aggressive? And what is your entry point? You can do a pen test from outside. You can do a pen test from inside. And there are differences you have to take into consideration when you are doing that. Red teaming always involves people and interaction. So let's say going into a company or calling some people, sending emails, trying to make them click stuff, getting inside, combined maybe with social engineering, putting on the uniform of a postman, delivering some parcels, which for some reasons to have some Wi-Fi inside, and then whatsoever. So in red teaming assessment, you have an aim, let's say, find out the access to the SAP or get us a golden ticket or whatsoever. And that is a pretty cool, let's say, awareness measure. And you see the probably vulnerabilities or things no one thought about it. So the question is, why are we doing pen testing? Why are we doing scannings? Because we would like to know that the organization has some weaknesses, some vulnerabilities, which can be exploited. And the tester itself is doing the stuff as he or she thinks it's right, but it's very important to get a different opinion. You should not do it simply in-house. You should hire someone from the outside. And if you hire a red teaming assessment, you will see interaction which you had not in mind that could happen. So it's really, let's say, the dynamic art of pen testing, and with a lot of improvisation. Normal pen test is scoped, and red teaming is somehow scoped as well. But the aim is important. Get your target, whatever the target might be, and you can in a real cool red teaming, you can do whatever you want. So I know some people who broke into doors to manipulate some ATMs and stuff like that. If you have a customer allowing you to do that, that's great. Yeah, a lot of fun. And if the police come, you can say, "Oh, I got a contract." No worries.
Yeah, that's a very important aspect, to have a contract. That's
well, actually, you need two contracts. One contract, which is the real one, and the other contract, which is fake one. And if we accept the fake one, we have another finding.
Great. So what I found on the German market so far is that I would say 90% of the companies are interested in regular pen testing. Mostly they not really mean pen testing, but some kind of a scanning with a bit of manual reporting, at least to what the competition said to me. But still, I think it's worth dealing with that for companies. But what is your opinion in which ways does pen testing help companies to be resilient? If you agree at all that they should do it, I guess you do.
Well, a customer is probably not always identical. There are various scope of customers. So where are people which are very aware? Let's say if a DAX company in Germany hires you to do a pen test, which is normally done by, let's say, the Security Operations Center, by the CERT or whatsoever. And if we say, we have here a target, we have one system which is new, there was a change whatsoever, please check if it's still secure. We know pretty exactly what we want, and we tell you pretty exactly what we want. And if you do your work properly and deliver the report, things is done. We will understand the report immediately. We will know what to do. And that's it. That's perfect and very professional for a pen tester. And on the other side, there are, let's say, companies who are not very familiar with pen testing, probably doing first pen test. And then there's a lot of explaining necessary. What's it all about? What do you have to keep in mind? You have to explain then why it's important if you're doing a pen test to make backups of systems, for instance, that there might be some damages and so on. So I can see a lot of advertising in the internet for the German market, and a lot of them talk about an hacker simulation or whatsoever. So would either like to hire someone who is doing the job really. If you are hiring a simulation, you can probably do a payment simulation afterwards. That's nonsense. But probably if you interrupt, I lost the red ribbon. What's it about?
No, just trying to find the positive sides there. What brings this for the customer? So on one hand, technical failures, for example, that's this one thing, which is for sure. When they do the pen testing, I mean, what do they get it? Because of the results of the pen testing show their vulnerabilities on one hand. What else does it bring to the ones who do it? Okay,
awareness is the first thing. Awareness that we are probably attackable by some means. And in the end, if we have their findings and we fix those findings, that's also very important. It's not just cool to know that there are some vulnerabilities where you have to fix that stuff, please. And if it's critical, please fix it in time. And do not wait for the next cycle or whatsoever. And that makes the companies more resilient. So we really become more resilient and things become better. And in an ideal world, you do not do just one pen test. A pen test is just a snapshot of that very moment in time. So at that moment, or maybe that period, the week, if the pen test took a week, in that week we found that and that and that and that and that. And but time changes, and so do systems. There will be some backups. There will be not backups. There will be some updates, some upgrades. There will be new change requests for systems, and things will alter all the time. So it's not enough to say, okay, we had a pen test that's okay for the next 5 years. You do to have that in a continuous way. At least let's say in a defined period. Some companies say every few years a system should be tested. Others say if it's very important, once a year. And others say whenever there was a major change, whoever defines what a major change might be. In the end, it's all about, from a management perspective, accepting the risk. What are you prepared to accept? And if you have that process of returning pen testing, of returning vulnerability scanning, of returning assessments, whatsoever, you start to create processes. And actually, that's what we want in the end. We want to have resilient companies. We should become mature, and we should have a robust and cool processes. And the pen testing is probably the starting point for that, but in the end, it should be, as always, a cycle, and should be better and better every time and in each time. So I think that is the great benefit of pen testing. If you are doing it in a process and you do it regularly, it's not just fire and forget, once in a lifetime experience. That should be on the table.
Okay. Thank you very much for summarizing it.
Headline of the week.
This is an article by German IT medium Security Insider. So, according to a representative study commissioned by the Digital Association of Bitkom, only 54% of German companies from all industries have a contingency plan in case of a cyber attack. So, according to the study, larger companies are better prepared, but there is still an overall backlog concerning cybersecurity and employees' awareness. For example, only 6 in 10 companies conduct regular training on security topics, and there is still rather little intention to increase this number. So it's a bit away from the core topic of penetration testing, but very close to the awareness, I guess. And this is what I keep telling to customers when they say, oh, okay, what is the first thing I need to do? Exactly on my side, I can tell you that I tell them that, hey, create a plan what you are doing when this shit happens with a cybersecurity incident, especially a ransomware. So what is your opinion? And regarding, did you read this article, or do you know the phenomenon?
I know the phenomenon. Well, it really does not surprise me much. I think that's business as usual. And then I think 45% is pretty good compared to what we probably saw 5 years ago. And maybe things improve. So a company who would like to do something for an emergency situation should have a baseline. So we should know pretty exactly what is normal in their organization, what are regular operations, what happens there, how many VPN connections do I have in a normal working day, let's say to China, to Russia, and so on. And if you don't have any employees in Russia or China, and normally you don't have any VPN connections, probably that might be an indicator that there is something rotten going on. And another thing which probably is interesting in pen testing, sorry for coming back to that, if your organization does not realize that there is a pen test conducted and we are blind and we do not realize that there are payloads fired, and when you have a severe problem. So the first step after having, let's say, the first pen test is looking for anomalies. And you can look for anomalies if you know your baseline. What is your normal traffic? What are the flows? What happens there? And if unusual things happen or start to happen, that should ring some alarms. And if that does not ring any alarm, the company is blind. And so we will not even be able to detect that there is probably an attack. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, and then after we have their baseline, of course, we should know what is my SOO, what do I have to defend? Do I have, let's say, I don't know, for any reason, 10 ADs in my systems? How many, I don't know, Oracle databases do I have or whatsoever? And how many uplinks to the internet and so on. And if you know exactly your situation, so what is my IT infrastructure like, and which system do I use, and what is usual and what is unusual, and you can start to think about incident handling or what happens in an emergency. Mm-hmm. So probably some people are aware with the incident response cycle of NIST, some special publication 800 and something, but not anyone has that stuff. There it is pretty cool, described what to do and what the steps are. But first of all, know what is normal to know about possible anomalies.
Mm-hmm. And also, actually, this article did not really reveal it, but it might come into the crisis management, which is also about communication, handling the economic effects of such an attack, I guess. So, yes, but thank you for these insights. And do you consider that you said that it surprises you positively, the 54%?
Well,
this is a development, but what do you see on the side of penetration testing and incident response capabilities and detection and response capabilities? Can you make a guess? Is the development still or there as well present? In Germany, I mean.
As I said, there are various customers. So when you're working for a DAX company, which has a certain maturity in cybersecurity, it is kind of, I do not want to say relaxed, but under control. Mm-hmm. And if you are, let's say, to a company who's probably not very deep in IT, some hidden champions, German Mittelstand, you probably have heard. Mm-hmm. a lot of times where we simply do not have the knowledge, we do not have the manpower, and it's not really easy for a medium-sized company to hire 1 or 2 or 3 experts, which are pretty expensive. So there can be done a lot with automatic detection of anomalies. But how explicit can I be? If the shit hits the fan, you have to care about it. Yeah, so you have to do some stuff. And in order to know that you have to do some stuff, you should know what was important. Do you have some business continuity plans? What do you really need to keep alive? And if you summarize, or if you have spotted what your core IT assets are, which are really essential to your company for its operation, you have to think about it. How can I manage that? If there is an incident, what would I do? How would I try to let's go to the cycle which I earlier mentioned from NIST. After you had detected an anomaly, you say, okay, I have to analyze that, and you have to analyze that issue, that event. And if you realize, okay, that is not just a simple event, there's really some nasty things going on. There are some perpetrators already in the company doing funny stuff. You have to try, of course, not try, you have to do it to contain that issue as far as it's possible. And if you stop them by whatever means, it could be in a company which is not really good prepared, switching off everything. You have to care about eradication and recovery. And if you've done that, it's also a cycle between I have to analyze, have to detect, is it still ongoing? Did I have it stopped, and so on? And after you have done that, you have to do your lessons learned afterwards, and which is part of your general preparedness of your knowing the baseline. And those steps, what to do and how to do it, probably for most companies, we are complicated, but if you've done it several times, it's straightforward, actually. And of course, you need some decent knowledge, and you have to, let's say, interpret the traces you see, and probably have to be flexible in the beginning, things what you're doing. But you have to train that. And if the people do not have any training, are not prepared how to handle such incident, it might be probably advisable to get some help from the outside in such a situation. But getting one step back, most companies are really able to handle an incident with their own skilled employees, if they know what to do, and if there is no management panicking and being in the headless chicken mode and trying to make things better. It never works. It always hits again the then. So it does not work that way. So if we know at least the basics, that helps a lot. So preparation is important.
Thank you. Actually, last year, you participated and presented in the online event Sicherheitsnetzwerk München about cyber attacks and ransomware attacks. So would you share some of your already shared recommendations regarding ransomware attacks? Not too much, but the basics.
Yeah, okay. I can, So let's start with the attack vector. So in most circumstances, the attack vector is either a really shitty system, which is still accessible from the outside. So in the beginning, let's say there was a lot of Windows Server 2008 R2 versions, which have been hijacked easily. And if there are certain systems out there which have known vulnerabilities, it's just a question of time. So there is no one going to attack company from a ransomware aspect. There is no one going to attack company ABC because it's company ABC. We simply write some scanners, look for the usual vulnerabilities where we have their own playbooks to exploit them. and knocking at the door. And if we are knocking on let's say 100,000 doors, 1,000 will pop open, and when we have their business. But vector 1, vector 2 is if it's probably a more juicy target, which has some resilience, is the human factor. So in a lot of cases, it's either the traveling businessman who is using the notebook in a hotel and who steps in some payload which is later activated when he's back in the company, or it's simply malware. So sending people malware per email. Let's say human resources department is completely used to get emails from unknown people with attachments saying, "This is my CV, please have a look." And there are 2 vectors. And after the attacker has the foot in the company, of course, we will look a little bit around. In former times, it was just getting everything as fast as possible encrypted. Meanwhile, in the first step, we are trying to steal a lot of data, as much data as we can. You probably have the news right now. I do not name any company name, but if you're simply looking for ransomware and DAX company, you will probably find one or the other who really have trouble right now. Because their data has been stolen and is offered in the darknet and therefore also in the internet for sale. So if you lost data in the size of 2 terabyte, I guess there is all kind of intellectual property in there. Not to speak about all the personal data of employees, of maybe customers or whatsoever. So it is a huge problem for the companies. But coming probably back to the
response, how to respond, yes.
So, or detecting an anomaly. If everything is encrypted and nothing works anymore, and a lot of machines where probably some process files or whatsoever is encrypted as well, we stop working, and you see in every directory strange file indexes, and you see readmes or probably readme first HTML file saying, "Hey, you have been encrypted," with showing nice messages on the screen. I think every idiot will be able to detect an anomaly here. So that is pretty easy. So ransomware gangs,
I guess not
cheating.
just. Sorry? Not just the idiots, I guess. So even the smart people will be able to.
yeah. Sorry. Getting blunt. Yeah, you're right. And there's a different approach. We want attention, and we want to have fast attention to get their money fast. So it's a completely different approach of an APT, advanced persistent threat. So those are the guys who are very sneaky and very silent and stay to be under the radar. And it's a completely different approach. And an APT is let's say a red teaming from the outside, while ransomware is simply the nuke. Poof, everything is gone. So it's really easy to detect under normal circumstances. There you need your recovery plans, and especially you need your backups, probably not just the backups of your system images, but very important of your data. So I'm not sure if there are some numbers. Normally I just get informed if people do have the problem that we do not get their data back because the backups have been encrypted as well or have been deleted. When it really becomes nasty, because in that case we have to discuss with the bad guys on the other side to find some kind of solution, however we might look. And unfortunately, in former times, where also has been paid money to those perpetrators, the question is, should the company go belly up, or should we send some money to them to get their help? It's probably the wrong wording here, to get the keys and the promise that they do not publish any data. But in the end, it's just a bunch of criminals you're dealing with.
Mm-hmm. Have you tried malware reverse engineering or the encryption somehow to reverse engineer and
Yeah, most of the encryption is AAS, so it's pretty good. The encryption itself, probably we fuck up with the keys. So whenever you attack an encryption, and if you probably know Kerckhoffs's principle, so the algorithm itself can be published. It's just a question how good is your key material, and I add how do you store your key material. In the end, the attacker, if that kind of, let's call it business, should work, has to care about the keys and has to be able to deliver the keys, which are normally bind in some encryption or decryption tool where it's hardwired inside. That it really does the job as promised to decrypt the data. If that does not work, the business is gone. And wherefore attacking the encryption itself is futile most of the times, but you have an interesting look on where is the key stored. At the beginning of ransomware, the keys have been somewhere in a Windows registry. So if you know where, you simply could look them up, and it was easy to program some decryptors, which made it unnecessary. But as I said, even if you are able to decrypt the stuff again, we came to a double extortion. So where we learned in the beginning, it was simply encrypting stuff and asking for money. But now, in the first place, we're trying to steal as many important information as possible. And of course, we know the time is ticking. If we are inside of the company and if we move lateral, probably some systems might be triggered and someone might get some attention on them. And wherefore, we have also sophisticated methods of looking for really important data. So we concentrate on data which is pain for the company, which is, for instance, personal data. So normally normally the employee data is stolen, customer data is stolen. They probably look for contracts of deliverers, contracts with other companies. So material which you could probably either call business confidential or relevant to the DSGVO, which is the GDPR in English.
Thank you. So stepping a bit back, we understood now that what is penetration testing and red teaming good for? What are the threats within a cyber attack, and why should we be prepared with a contingency plan at least, and going into incident response capabilities, the more the better. We did not talk today about the regulation. I don't know if you are a believer in regulation. In my opinion, it helps at least to set up the framework, the blueprint for the companies to accommodate to. Do you have an idea or an opinion about what on European level the decision makers could do to a bit quicker step forward in resilience, cyber resilience?
That's a tough question. So I was a member of the committee to work on the German cyber resilience strategy. There was a lot of talking, and when I said maybe some sanctions would have been a good idea, all the guys from the industry said, fuck you. We worded it differently, but actually it was the message. And the question is, how can you motivate people? How can you motivate managers to care in a preventive way? Normally, we are just reactive. If things happen, we cry for help. But actually, we should be more proactive. We should care about it. And how do you motivate people? And one big motivation, of course, in Germany was the GDPR. I've seen it pretty clearly about, let's say, okay, it's a longer time. Let's say 8 years ago or something, if it was a really huge disaster with a lot of leaked personal data, the manager simply shrugged with her shoulders and said, hey, come on, it's just customers' data. No one cares about it. But if we are fined with $100,000, That's different. So in that way, regulation works. And I think it should be clear to every manager and every decider, if you are wasting private data or personal data of other people, that will cost you money. That really will cost you money. That will small your revenue. And you have to pay for it. It is a pain. So in the end, I'm convinced about that managers simply learn by pain, unfortunately. You can key it differently. You can say risk avoidance or whatsoever. So
or you can say also people learn from pain. I'm afraid. So that's human.
So in business term, pain is money. So if we lose money, we will care about it. And it's just asking how much money do we lose if things happen. Unfortunately, in a lot of situations, business administration talks about a black swan, and the black swan will never happen, and so on. And who has an interest to attack us? And we are safe, and yalla, I don't know, name it. And I've seen so many black swans in so many different colors. So probably. Pain-driven works, and the question is, how would you like to do regulations? I have no idea. One thing is, it costs money if we lose personal data. I'm pretty sure some weasels will find ways to make that some more painless by mitigating or delegating or whatsoever, without really addressing the issue, without really caring about security. The main point is security is not a business function. It's probably necessary and probably molesting the people and costing money, and we do not see any benefit for that. And but this the key issue here. So security is, from a perspective of management, very often just additional. But it's essential in our times today, because it can be a huge showstopper for everything. So if your security breaks and your system break, your business will break. It's that easy. And if you would like to do it proactive with regulation.
But if you look at the NIST regulation framework or the German Cybersecurity Act, the new version, then the fines are going up dramatically. So you could be. So it's a positive sign in your opinion. Step forward. It draws some attention to at least of risk managers of the according company. So just big companies are afraid to lose a lot of money. A small company, if we really have some GDPR trouble, I don't think so that the governmental institutions will have any interest to make them go into bankruptcy. That will not happen under normal circumstances. And for bigger companies who really can afford it, probably, it should be expensive, of course. And the risk managers should draw the right conclusions. How can we avoid that? And the more we go into, let's do some proactive activities, measures, and so on, the better it is. But security is very often not seen as a key function. So we say, okay, we need an insurance. So we waste our money in insurance contracts or whatsoever. We probably also have a building block, ransomware and deep digital extortion and so on. But if there is a way to make management aware that really improving their own technical security and awareness and complete stack becoming more resilient and being mature in a cybersecurity way, the better. I'm not sure if a regulation is the key factor for that, but at least it will help a bit, I guess. Okay. Thank you very much for your opinion. I really enjoy this talk with you. On one hand, very informative. The other hand, it's very joyful and fun. Definitely. So it was a pleasure for me as well. But I had the feeling I was talking all the time. But that's a podcast, so it's the best place to do it, I guess. So. I'm even grateful for you talking a bit more than maybe normally. But so for the listeners, I hope you liked today's episode, and we would love if you join us for the next episode of CyberPod EU. And look at the notes. You will find interesting links as well. And be with us next time again. Thank you very much, Ralf. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. See you. Bye.
Bye-bye.